Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is GD Sharma and you are with me on my channel Englit. Today we are going to deal with PV Shelley and some of the important questions on him. These questions are very much important from the perspective of UGC NET or TGT, PGT or other various competitions in which English is asked. So along with the questions we will discuss in detail all the options and various other factors related to the poet and his age. So let's start the video. The very first question is, which of the following works of Shelley is a poetic drama? And the options are Alastor or the Spirit of Solitude, the Cenci, the Revolt of Slam, or Otho the Great. And the correct answer is option B, the Cenci. Before we explain the points, let us first understand what is poetic drama. So poetic drama or a verse play is any play written in verse or in a heightened poetic form of prose. This kind of drama is very much close to the closet drama. Closet drama that is meant only to be read rather than performed or staged. And the main drama, as you know, they are Samson Agonistes of Milton, Manfred by Lord Byron, Prometheus Unbound by Shelley himself. So other example of poetic drama written by Shelley is Prometheus Unbound and The Dynast that was written by Thomas Hardy. As far as this play is concerned, this was published in 1819. It is a verse tragedy and the protagonist is Beatrice Cenci. She was tried and executed for the murder of her own father. The father had an evil eye upon her, and he was the Count Francisco Cenci at the court of Rome. This play is mainly known for incest theme. Incest means having a sexual relationship or intention of sexual relationship with the beloved or the blood relationship. The other main theme is atheism. This play was very much influenced by Shakespeare. The last words are very much important from the examination's point of view, and they were spoken by Beatrice Cenci herself, and she was on the prospect of death. So young to go, under the obscure, cold, rotting wrong ground. These were the words spoken by Beatrice Cenci on the prospect of death, and they occurred in Act 5th, Scene 4th. So these lines are important from the examination point of view. Alastor is also known by the second title, The Spirit of Solitude. It is a visionary poem. Visionary poem means it is in the form of a vision. It was published in 1816. The Spirit of Solitude is the demon of solitude. This demon, this spirit, pursues the poet to his death because he will not be satisfied by his dramatic affections and human sympathy. So he was very much haunted by or pursued by this spirit. It is written in Miltonic blank verse. Miltonic blank verse means the heightened form of blank verse that is used mainly for epic purposes. This poem is closely associated with other prose essays of Shelley, that is On Love and On Life. These are two of his essays, On Love and On his On Life. This kind of question can also be asked in the examinations. On Love and On Life are written by whom? So they are prose essays by Shelley himself, and they are also associated with this visionary poem, dream vision poem, Alastor. Revolt of Slam is an epical political poem, epical or epic political poem. It was written in 1817. It has other title as well, Lon and Sithna. Actually, Lon and Sithna, they were two siblings, brother and sisters. They initiated a revolt against the then monarch. It has another title as well, The Revolution in the Golden City. It was published in 1818. It is written in 12 cantos in Spenserian stanzas. So as far as the poetic form of the poems, long poems rather, they are concerned, so they are very much important from the examination point of view. Sometimes they are asked in which form this particular poem is composed. So this was composed in Spenserian stanzas and it was in 12 cantos. So these are commonly asked questions. This poem has also the theme of incest. Incest means Both these brother and sister, they had sexual relationship with them, and as a result of it, they had one child as well. Otho the Great was also a poetic drama, but it was written by John Keats, not by P.V. Shelley. It was published in 1819, and this was composed in the collaboration with his friend Charles Brown. So sometimes it is asked with whom John Keats composed this verse play or the poetic drama Otho the Great. So it was his friend Charles Brown. It was written in iambic pentameter and it was based on the German king Otto. Next question, which of the following poems of Shelley represents Byron through a character? So one of the poems of P.B. Shelley has Lord Byron as one of the characters. So was this The Mask of Anarchy, Epipsychidion, Julian and Medello, and Adonais? And the correct answer is Julian and Medello. The poem has a subtitle, A Conversation, and as the subtitle suggests, the poem is in the form of conversation with these two characters. And who are these two characters? Julian is Shelley himself, and Medello is Byron. So it is a conversation between these two characters, Shelley and Byron. So Byron is the character who has a name in the poem, that is Medello. It is a kind of dialogue, and as such this poem influenced Robert Browning to compose his dramatic monologues. So it can also be asked sometimes that who was the source of influence for dramatic monologue for Robert Browning. So it was Shelley. It was published in 1824. The conversation takes place when they ride and boat through Venice and discuss the problems of free will, progress, religion, or religious belief. As far as this poem is concerned, The Mask of Anarchy, it is a poem of political protest. It was published in 1832, long after the death of P.V. Shelley. And this was in response to the Peterloo Massacre. This point has to be remembered very carefully. Peterloo Massacre was held at St. Peter's Fields in Manchester in August 1819. Epipsychidion is a kind of autobiographical poem of P.B. Shelley. This was published in 1821. This poem resembles the poem of Edmund Spenser, Epithalamion. That is to say, this poem is a kind of marriage song. This poem celebrates Shelley's lifelong search for the eternal image of beauty in the earthly form of his various wives, mistresses, and female friends. As we all know that Shelley was always in the search of true beauty, true love, the true companion, and then as such he had so many affairs. So this poem is regarding all those affairs. And particularly this poem was chiefly addressed to Amelia Viviani. This is important point. This poem is directly addressed to this lady, Amelia Viviani. Although other women have also been noticed in these poems like Harriet Westbrook, Mary Shelley, Claire Claremont. But mainly this poem is addressed to Amelia Viviani. And the poem ends with the invitation of elopement to this lady, Amelia Viviani. At the end of the poem, P.V. Shelley invites this lady to elope with him. This poem is a kind of attack on conventional form of marriage. Adonais, as we all know, that this was an elegy written on the death of John Keats. It is also written in 55 Spenserian stanzas. Spenserian stanzas, which is a stanza of 9 lines. The rhyming scheme is A B, B C, B C, C. Next question, Shelley's defense of poetry was provoked by William Godwin, Edmund Burke, Thomas Love Peacock, and Lord Byron. And the correct answer is it was provoked by Thomas Love Peacock. It was composed in 1821 and published in 1840. Actually, it was a reply to 4 Ages of Poetry that was composed by Thomas Love Peacock. 4 Ages of Poetry was a kind of attack on poetic form. And this defense of poetry was a defense. Defense means it was attacked, the poetry was attacked by Thomas Love Peacock, and in its defense, Shelley wrote this tract. Thomas Love Peacock in this book argues that the best mind of the future must turn to economics and social sciences rather than to poetry. In the view of Thomas Love Peacock, social sciences or human sciences or economics are the only subject matter for the future generation. And one must not turn to poetry because poetry has nothing in his point of view. And as such, Shelley defends poetry. And in this way, he defends his own poetical belief. And this belief is set against the background of classical and European literature. In this book, he discusses the nature of poetic truth, poetic thought, and inspiration, and the problems of translation, the value of erotic writing, and the connection between poetry and politics, and the essentially moral nature of the imagination. These were some of the points that were raised in this defense of poetry. The emphasis on imagination, he took the idea from S.T. Coleridge. S.T. Coleridge's notion of imagination influenced this defense of poetry. One more point is to be noted here that this book draws on Shelley's early essays as well. The main essay of regarding this book is Philosophical View of Reform. So this essay and other essays were the foundation of this book. In the prefaces of some other poems, he also defended or laid down his theory of poetry. So Shelley was not a regular critic. It was merely by chance that he had to in the response to this book, The Four Ages of Poetry. And the very famous quotation from this book is, "The poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world." So sometimes the author of this quotation can be asked, but this is easy question. And other times it can be asked from which book of P.B. Shelley this quotation has been taken. So this was defense of poetry. Next question, who wrote the review of Endymion, which was blamed by Shelley and Byron, groundlessly to be sure, for the death of Keats? Actually, Keats, Shelley and Byron, they did not get any recognition and acclaim during their lifetime. They were harshly or severely criticized, and some of the critics who severely criticized them and gave the hostile reviews of their poems, they were chiefly responsible. So who was the writer of that review? Review to Endymion. Keats did not tolerate this review, and then this became the cause of his death. And this has been mentioned in Adonais as well. This has been referred in this poem. P.B. Shelley clearly mentions that the review Endymion caused Keats to die. So who was that person? Was he John Harvey, John Locke, John Gibson Lockhart, or John Wilson Croker? And the correct answer D, it was John Wilson Croker. He wrote this review on Endymion. John Wilson Croker was the leading contributor to Quarterly Review. So review, the name of review can be also asked. It is Quarterly Review. Quarterly Review was the name of that magazine in which this review was published. Quarterly Review, London magazine, they were basically known for the hostile criticism of Shelley, Keats and Byron. John Wilson Croker's magnum opus, his main work for which he is mainly remembered, is his edition of Boswell's Life of Johnson. He edited Boswell's Life of Johnson. So this biography is very much famous, and then this was edited by John Wilson Croker. So his greatest contribution in the field of literature is the edition of Boswell's Life of Dr. Johnson. John Harvey was the British author of crime fiction of 20th century, and his novel series that he is mainly known for is Charlie Rancic. Charlie Rancic was the series in which many novels were published. John Locke was English philosopher, physician and Enlightenment thinker. His theory of tabula rasa, it is very much important theory or famous theory, when he says that child, when he is born, his mind is blank slate. Whatever you put in it will be imprinted. So the theory of tabula rasa was given by John Locke, and he is called the father of liberalism. So this is important factor. Who is called the father of liberalism? It is John Locke. John Gibson Lockhart was a Scottish writer and editor. He was also associated with Quarterly Review. He is best known for the biography of his father-in-law. And who was that man? Walter Scott. So Walter Scott's biography is as famous, as important as that of Life of Johnson. So very few biographies They come to fore when we deep delve into the world of biographies, the world famous biographies. So one is the biography of Walter Scott that was written by John Gibson Lockhart, and other was Life of Johnson that we have already mentioned. He was the same person who gave Cockney School of Poetry. The phrase Cockney School of Poetry was given by John Gibson Lockhart in Blackwood magazine for John Keats, Lew Hunt, and he even accused Keats of vulgar Cockney poetaster. Next question. Whereas Byron was a great interpreter of revolutionary iconoclasm, Shelley was political revolutionist, prophet of peace, revolutionist idealist, or golden heart with music. So as far as Byron and Shelley are concerned, they are mainly known for their characteristic traits. Byron is the interpreter of revolutionary iconoclasm, and Shelley is mainly known as revolutionist idealist. He had great zeal for idealism. He was revolutionary for idealism. He was very much against with the customs and creeds and social institutions that were prevalent during his time, and he was least satisfied with all those institutions. He wanted to upturn all those things, all those institutions, particularly the government itself. So P.B. Shelley was most revolutionary and non-conformist of all the romantic poets, and as such he is called Mad Shelley. This is important point because sometimes it is asked in questions. Or Eton atheist. These phrases have been attributed to his name. Eton atheist or Mad Shelley. Sometimes the question can be asked as such, who is called Eton atheist or Mad Shelley? So Mad Shelley is Shelley himself. Eton atheist is he only. And this revolutionary zeal can be easily discernible, easily manifest, easily identified in his odes like Ode to the West Wind, Ode to Liberty, Ode to the Naples, or the longer poems like Witch of Atlas, or Young Parson Richards, or Song to the Man of England, or some of the sonnets like Sonnet England 1819. He is also called least embodied. Least embodied means he is quite ambiguous kind of character. He preached human perceptibility and emancipation of spirit. So these points are very much important. Next question. In which of the following poems of Shelley made an attack on reactionary government of Prime Minister Castlereagh? So was that poem The Mask of Anarchy, Peter Bell III, The Spirit of Solitude, or Oedipus Tyrannus? And the correct answer is it was The Mask of Anarchy that we have already discussed. It was based on the Peterloo Massacre. Peterloo Massacre. Or rather it was against or it was in response to the Peterloo Massacre. The poem is in the ballad form. In this poem, Shelley basically accuses Prime Minister Castlereagh for this massacre. And in this massacre, 17 people were killed and approximately 500 injured. This poem is very much important from the point of view that it is first modern statement of principle of non-violent and resistance. And this principle was adopted by Henry David Thoreau or Mahatma Gandhi as well. So this Mask of Anarchy is very much important from this point of view. There can also be any question in the examination that in which poems of Shelley there is mention of non-violence. So it is Mask of Anarchy. The important line of this poem is rise like lion after slumber in unvanquishable number. This poem was edited by Lew Hunt, and Lew Hunt also wrote the preface. There can be any question who wrote the preface to the poem The Mask of Anarchy. So it was Lew Hunt. The essay Civil Disobedience and the Idea of Satyagraha was taken from this book, The Mask of Anarchy. Peter Bell III is the parody of William Wordsworth's Peter Bell. So there are 3 poems as this title suggests. So who wrote Peter Bell first? Peter Bell first was written by Wordsworth. Second Peter Bell II. It was written by the friends of John Keats, J. Reynolds. J.H. Reynolds. He was friends of John Keats. And Peter Bell III was written by P.B. Shelley. In this poem, P.V. Shelley mocks or satirizes Wordsworth's defection from radical cause, and for this purpose, P.V. Shelley called Wordsworth moral eunuch. You may have heard sometimes the phrase moral eunuch. So, who called Wordsworth moral eunuch? It was P.V. Shelley. And in this book, in which book? It was in Peter Bell III. And for what? For Wordsworth's defection from radical cause. Radical cause means Wordsworth did not follow the revolutionary zeal which Shelley was following. He called Wordsworth solemn and unsexual man, or moral eunuch, or moral eunuch. The famous line, "Hell is the city much like London," also occurs in this book. About the period of solitude we have already mentioned. Oedipus Tyrannus, it has other name, the 12 foot of the Tyrant. So what is the subtitle of the other title of this Oedipus Tyrannus? It is 12 foot of the Tyrant. It is satirical drama based on the trial of adultery of Caroline, wife of King George IV. Caroline was the wife of King George IV, and Caroline was supposed to have had an affair with Oedipus. So she was charged with adultery, and the case was tried in the court. So this drama is based on that trial. The next question, Shelley writes in Adonais, a portion of the loveliness, which one he made more lovely. So who does he refer to in these lines? About whom Shelley is talking in these lines? This can be an easy question because Adonais is all about John Keats. So the correct answer is John Keats. Adonais was written on the death of John Keats. So he is eulogizing John Keats. So it was not Shelley himself as Coleridge or Wordsworth. Adonais, as we have already mentioned, it was written in 55 Spenserian stanzas, written on the death of John Keats. Adonais has a full title as well. So full title is Adonais, an elegy on the death of John Keats, author of Endymion, Hyperion, etc. So this is the full title that is printed on the book title, on the book cover page. In this book, he accuses John Wilson Croker, that we have already mentioned, J.W. Croker, and other people like Lockhart. He accuses these people for the untimely death of John Keats. John Wilson Croker was called in this poem like nameless worm. So he did not directly name, but it was referred to this person, Croker, or noteless blot. So sometimes it can be also asked, nameless worm and noteless blot referred to whom? So they are referred to John Wilson Croker. Mother of Adonais was Urania, mother of Adonais in the poem. To arise, to invoke, to arise, to conduct the funeral rites, the last. So when it was the time of performance of all the funeral rites, last rites, so Urania was invoked by P.B. Shelley. So this can be some kind of question. Who was the goddess or the mother of Adonais who was invoked in the poem? So Urania was invoked. Next question, which of the following, written in 1821 and published posthumously in 1840, bears Shelley's most confidential proclamation of social function of poetry and the prophetic role of the poet? So the book was published posthumously in 1840. Shelley died in 1822, and this book bears Shelley's most confidential declaration on social function of poetry or prophetic role of the poet. So that was the book Defense of Poetry, about which we have already discussed. And Defense of Poetry was defense to the charges laid down by Thomas Love Peacock in his 4 Ages of Poetry. Thomas Love Peacock wanted to say that future people, future minds, future intellects should devote themselves to social sciences or economics rather than to turn to the poetry. So Shelley defends that people should turn to poetry for these reasons. He associates poetry with social love and freedom. For him, poetry of life provides the one sure response to the destruction isolating, alienating, accumulating, and calculating process of modern civilization. Other important lines of this work are: the great instrument of moral good is imagination, and the poetry administers to the effect by acting on the cause. Next important line: a single word even may be a spark of inextinguishable thought. And other important line of this work is: poetry is the record of the best and happiest moments of the happiest and best minds. Triumph of Life was an unfinished poem. So it is important from this point of view. The question can be asked, which poem is unfinished of P.B. Shelley? So it is Triumph of Life. And this was also a visionary poem. It was also in the form of a dream vision. It was composed in terza rima, in which Dante's Inferno or Divine Comedy has been composed. And this poem was itself influenced by Dante's Inferno. So not only the form, poetic form, but also the concept of this poem has been taken for this poem, The Triumph of Life. The triumph belongs to the Chariot of Life. Hellas is a lyrical drama that was published in 1822. It was influenced by Aeschylus. It was inspired by the Greek War of Independence against the Turkish Empire. The famous quotation, "We are all Greek," occurred in this poem. About the Mask of Anarchy we have already discussed. Next question: which of the following poems denounces all the forces of tyranny and oppression represented by kings and priests? So was that Declaration of Rights, Queen Mab, A Letter to Lord Ellenborough, or Revolt of Slam? So the correct answer is Revolt of Slam was the poem. It was epic political poem. It is written in 12 cantos and published in 1819. Subtitle, as we have already told, Lone and Sithna. These were two siblings, and then they initiated a revolution against the existing monarchy. They had incestuous relationship as well. They both had a child. Queen Mab has one more subtitle, Philosophical Poem with Notes. So this is the subtitle. This is very much important point. So Queen Mab has a subtitle. A Philosophical Poem with Notes. The complete subtitle is A Philosophical Poem with Notes. It is in 9 cantos and 17 notes. 17 notes and 9 cantos. This has to be remembered. It is written in a form of fairy tale that presents future vision of utopia on earth. Declaration of Rights and Letter to Lord Ellenborough. These two were written in correspondence with William Godwin. William Godwin was his father-in-law. So he took the idea of necessity and combined it with his own idea of ever-changing nature to establish the theory that contemporary society or societal evils would dissolve naturally in time. So in corresponding with Godwin, he circulated pamphlets on vegetarianism. So Letter to Lord Ellenborough and Declaration, they were pamphlets on vegetarianism and on free press. So these two were pamphlets, Letter to Lord Ellenborough and Declaration of Rights. They were pamphlets on vegetarianism and free press. The next question, or the last question of this session: which extraordinary pamphlet caused Shelley and his friend, both undergraduate, to be expelled from Oxford? So what did they write which caused them their expulsion from Oxford, and who was this other friend? So what was the name of that extraordinary pamphlet? Was it Witch of Atlas, Necessity of Atheism, The Assassins, or Jastrozy? So it was The Necessity of Atheism. The concept of necessity he took from William Godwin. And what is that necessity of atheism? So this was a prose pamphlet. And who was that friend? He was Thomas Jefferson. So this name is very much important. Sometimes the name can be asked, other times the pamphlet can be asked, and some other times it can be asked from which university. So it was Oxford University, they were expelled. This was published in 1811. They were undergraduate, both of them were undergraduate. They used a skeptical argument of David Hume and John Locke. They demolished the grounds for rational belief in the deity. Both of the friends, they circulated this prose pamphlet, the copies of pamphlet, to the heads of the college or the bishop. Jastrozzi was the series of Gothic novel. Actually, he had some private freak of printing. He was fond of printing privately. So this was privately published, privately printed, the series of Gothic novels. Assassins was this unfinished novella. So short novel, which was the short novel that he wrote, and that was unfinished. Particularity of this point is that it was unfinished. So it was the Assassins. It was in 1814. Witch of Atlas, it was published in 1824. It was a playful fantasy, and that was written in 78 stanzas. And the important thing about this, it was composed in just 3 days. And who was that witch? Which was the daughter of Apollo, goddess Apollo, goddess sun. And this was also known as the spirit of mischief. Spirit of mischief, as the name suggests, it was always in a search of some kind of mischief. And then she, along with her companion, she had one companion as well, Hermaphrodite. What was the companion? Hermaphrodite. They circle around the globe and weave spells over kings, priests, soldiers, lovers, whom they found to be arrogant. So they always roamed about, traveled about, sailed about, and then whenever they found some arrogant priest, arrogant king, arrogant soldier, or lovers, so they cast the magical spell. So this is all for now. Hope you would like this lecture. If you feel like sharing this video, share among your friends and like this video. And if you have any further query, you can comment in the comment box below. So stay motivated, take care, keep learning, stay motivated. Thanks for watching.